Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, Vincent, Larusa, and I are going to be talking about the KISS event in Vegas coming up this November. We'll give you our thoughts, our opinions, and who we think some of the special guests may or may not be. Lots to cover in this episode. I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. So let's jump in and let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. Today, I have with me my buddy, my comrade, the Eric Singer of podcasts. I told you I was going to give you that new name.
Yeah.
How you doing today, bloody?
I am super excited to be doing this podcast today. I don't want anyone to be disappointed that I'm not excited about doing this freaking podcast.
Oh, that's
Okay.
good. Plenty of dances. Obviously, what that's about is I told you last time when we were recording the Off the Soundboard one that you seemed a little subdued. And that was because, understandably, you had just, a few hours beforehand done 41 songs at a show. And somebody commented that you didn't seem so into it. So I'm glad that you're thoroughly thawed. You're thoroughly thawed. He's dancing. He's singing.
I'm doing the Bruce.
You're doing the Bruce. There you go. I love it. I love it. You're thoroughly thawed for this conversation.
Yes.
Now, of course, I just called you the Eric Singer of podcasts. And people are like, what the hell is that all about? We know Vinnie plays drums. Is that why? Nah, that's not why. Why don't you just share for 30 seconds why I'm calling you the Eric Singer of podcasts?
And you reminded me of that. I've recently become pretty obsessed in watches. And so... And then you told me that the funny story where we were on the cruise and or somewhere.
Yeah. So as KISS fans probably know, Eric Singer likes to collect watches. And that's why I said to Vincent, he is now the Eric Singer of podcasts. But I forget what KISS cruise it was. Maybe like KISS cruise 4 or 5. It doesn't really matter. I was in an area waiting to meet Gene Simmons in his personal suite on the cruise. And I'm standing in a hallway, let's just say with about 8 or 10 people, and some of them being like my daughter. And all of a sudden, somebody just grabs my right wrist and is like pulling it. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And I turn around, I look, and it's Eric Singer. And I was wearing a watch on my right wrist, and he wanted to see what watch I was wearing. So he just literally grabbed my arm and started looking at my watch, which was nothing impressive. It was like a $80, $100 watch. It was, I don't want to say a no-name brand. I don't know what it was. It was nothing that would impress somebody who collects watches, such as yourself, Eric Singer. And I said to him, Eric, that watch is not going to interest you in the slightest bit. And he basically threw my arm down and kept walking. That was it. I don't even know if he ever said a word to me, which really made it more funny to me. It was actually a hilarious moment. And but it was just so weird, like standing there and all of a sudden my arm's like being yanked out of the socket and I have no idea why. And you turn around and it's Eric Singer.
Must have scared you too, because it's kind of like, a little like jarring, no? Like
it was a little jarring. Yeah, it was a little jarring. I was like, what the hell's going on here? Who's ripping my arm out of the socket? Like, is this Chewbacca trying to like rip my arm out or whatever? Like, what the hell's going on? But then they turn around and it's Eric Singer. I was like, that was probably the last thing I was ever thinking. But he had this radar, like he saw my watch probably as he was walking down. Radar for watch.
Radar.
That's right. So how many watches do you own now?
Oh my goodness. I'm thinking the box. I have what's 24 plus 20
44.
Is 44 plus 20.
Jeez, over 60 watches?
Yeah, about, yeah.
Do they all tell you the same time when you look at them?
No, I set them differently just to confuse myself.
All right, this is the one I wear if I'm in Japan. This is the one if I'm in London.
And let me just be very, very clear, because people will think, oh, watches, well, Rolex, and they think all the top brands, Omega, whatever, I mean, if you go and start getting on this, this rabbit hole about watches, you see people love Casio watches.
Hmm.
So I've gotten like a bunch of the retro, like 80s Casio watches. I actually had the one with the calculator, but like the most sold watch of like old time is like a $15 Casio that they still
Really?
sell. It's like a reissue. I can't remember, WR 89, 89, something like that. Anyway, you go on Amazon, it's $19, and it's just a very plain old digital watch that you saw from the 80s, and they still sell, I think, about 3 million of these things a year. I mean,
Wow.
so my point being, when you think about collecting watches, yeah, you could think of somebody. Well, I do have some nice watches, but I
Yeah, I was
also
gonna
have a
say you
lot of
told me the other day one you had that was quite pricey. We won't get into
yes,
the deets, but it was
right.
quite pricey.
But I love the old school Casio watches too, the
Mm-hmm.
old digital watches too. So
Do you have any watches you could talk into? Like, yeah, hi, Mike, I'm going to be at your house in 5 minutes.
well, my Apple Watch, I could do that. So
Sure.
yeah,
Okay,
but other than that, I do have something that William Shatner loaned me from the Starship Enterprise from the '60s that still works. Actually,
Okay, wow.
that Captain Kirk.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, we're not here to talk about watches. Although, if ever I have Eric
Why
Singer
not?
on,
Why not?
have Eric Singer on, I might need to have you join me just so you can have like the watch segments of the
Special consultant
That's
to
right.
watch technology.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. But for the first time since I started doing this podcast,
first time ever I saw your face.
Oh, yeah, I got full Vincent back. I'm glad. Well, for the first time since we started doing this podcast, we actually tried to record an episode.
Nice job, weekend.
By the way. Last weekend.
Nice job. Woke me up early for nothing. Thanks.
And we were going to do it on the announcement and the fact that the Vegas show that was announced is going to go on sale. And right away I noticed that, things weren't looking right on the connection that we had. And long story short,
it was amateur hour.
It was amateur hour. It was amateur hour. And I didn't even record the episode, or at least the second half of it, because I had to record that one in two parts for various reasons. So that ended up being a total disaster. And for the first time, that means we did not have that episode to put out there. So I said, well, when do we want to talk about Vegas? Because we haven't spoken about it publicly yet on the podcast. And we went back and forth. Well, do we talk about it? Do we re-record the same day? Because I noticed 5 minutes after we hung up that I didn't record. Do we wait until the pre-sale? Do we wait until the public sale? When do we do it? And you were like, I think we should do it sooner the better. So here we are to talk about the Vegas event, which has now gone through the VIP sale as well as the Kiss Army sale, but not the public sale. So that's just as a point of reference for anybody who's tuning in and watching this. At the time we're recording, that's where they are in the process. So, but before we even talk about how ticket sales are, and before we talk about the event itself and the details of the event itself, I'm going to ask you, when you first heard about this event being made public, and forget the fact that Paul and Gene is special guests for a moment, right? But just the fact that there was going to be another performance, what were your first thoughts?
Dolly Parton.
All right, help me, Dolly Parton.
Here we go again.
That one went over my head.
But you got the song.
I know the song.
Right?
Yeah, of course I know the song. Yes.
I like Dolly Parton. I said, what?
Yeah. Like, what?
What I think was not surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in all fairness, they kind of want to do a lot of things to get Kiss fans excited,
Yes.
And they never ever said that they were never going to, be on a stage together. They just said they would have stopped touring and playing makeup. That's what I always got. But I was like, I think I was maybe a little shocked at first, not shocked, as it maybe surprised that it was so soon. Mm-hmm. But then again, I think about the ages again. I'm like thinking, all right, time is now.
Right.
We don't know.
You can't wait 5 more years.
No. Or maybe 2, 3. God
right.
forbid, right?
Who knows? Yeah.
So, and I could also see because, Pop House kind of really wants to get the motor running, the motoring, and,
I get that reference.
Yeah. And so, like, why not do this while they can and make it exciting for Kiss fans? And while Paul and Gene are, still able to perform and want to perform,
right.
To do something. So I really wasn't surprised by it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like you said, and I've said it before on the show, I've been in some conversations with Pop House, And quite honestly, while I didn't know all the details of the event, I didn't know the location, I didn't know the dates, I knew that an event was being planned for a few months now, right? Um, and when I first saw it, I was taken back, like, wow, oh my God, they're going to perform again. So I've had a few months to let it marinate, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak, and kind of get over that surprise. You mentioned before, rightly so, that there was a lot of interviews during the end of the road tour where they said, we're not going to tour anymore, we're not going to play with the makeup anymore, and they left this door wide open. There were other interviews, though, just to be fair, where they said, this is the final performance. We're never going to perform again. And there was a little bit of that mixed messaging that was going out. And I wonder if, quite frankly, they just weren't sure. Would they perform again in some capacity or not? I think they knew it was clear they weren't going to do a tour and makeup anymore. But I guess it was probably unsure if they would do a one-off type performance like this.
Well, didn't Doc McGee say that it was possible that they could do like a cruise type of thing? I mean,
Yes.
soon thereafter. I mean, so that's I'm also
Last
going
year,
based.
last March, when I had him on my show, he
That's what I'm
said that there
saying.
could be
Yeah,
another cruise.
that's what I said. Soon thereafter.
Yeah.
So it did. That's why again, Doc's their manager. That's why I did come when he said that. I'm like, yeah, here we go.
Yeah. Yep.
Just waiting for the announcement.
Exactly.
So
So to me, that made it a surprise, but not a shock when I first heard about this. And I knew as this became public that there would be mixed reactions to it. Some fans would jump for joy and be excited that, hey, Kiss is going to do another show in some capacity, and it wouldn't matter to them at all. But I also knew that there'd be people, as there was with, I think, Dee Snider and Eddie Trunk, kind of made public comments about, don't believe any retirement you ever hear. How can you believe, especially Kiss has pulled this multiple times now? And look, you go down the laundry list of bands have said they're going to retire and then they didn't. It's endless. I could probably count on less than one hand the amount of bands who said they were going to retire and actually did. The only one that comes to my mind ever is Kix, and I truly don't think they're ever going to perform again. But who knows? Even Dee Snider, who made a comment, Twisted Sister did perform at I think it was like not a private event, but it was like one of these like award things for something last year.
Mm, yeah.
So, everybody has their own bar of what it means I won't perform again. And for me, this is a very, very, very different type of thing for Kiss compared to a tour, compared to show with makeup in arenas and all that. This is a very different thing.
First of all, we don't even know if it's Kiss.
Right. So, and I want to go there in a moment, right? So, but I grew from being like, oh, right, that's interesting, to being like, oh, this could be a lot of fun. And like you were just saying, we don't even know if it's going to be Kiss. So let's talk about the way it was announced now, right? So Paul and Gene and special guests. What do you think of that?
Well, clearly it's not Kiss. At least this last iteration of Kiss.
Maybe it will be, though. We don't know.
No, but hold on. Let me just say one thing about this, and this is by no means do I predicting or know anything.
No.
If Peter, Chris, or Ace Frehley were going to be a part of this, I don't think they would want to call that Kiss, because that's saying they're back in the band,
right?
Per se.
Mm-hmm.
So I think by saying special guests, I'm talking about Peter, Chris, and Ace Frehley.
Mm-hmm.
I think it kind of leaves that door open to the possibilities of something to that effect, or Tommy or Eric or whatever, or maybe some rotating in and out, guys come and go. I don't know. But
now, do you think it could be a bait and switch where they announce Paul and Gene as special guests, get some fans excited that it could be Peter, it could be Ace, and then it turns out that it's neither Peter nor Ace?
Yes, I think it's very possible that.
Do you think the intention is a bait and switch?
No,
I don't either.
I don't think so.
I don't either. I think they just, quite frankly, probably don't know yet who's going to be.
Well, and that's kind of puzzling because, I don't know what Tommy and Eric are doing these days. As far as I know, Tommy's still somewhat involved with Kiss, but Eric, besides looking for a new watch, I don't know what else he's doing. I don't know if him to be in any band right now, right?
Not to my knowledge. No.
So you would think that would just be easy, that to say, all right, it's only 3 days, right? I mean, it's one performance, isn't it?
As far as I know, it's one performance.
Right, so it's not even 3 performances. It's one day, one performance.
Yep.
Tommy and Eric weren't available. Was not one of them not available? Did they not want to say, well, Tommy's available, so Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Tommy Thayer, and guest?
Right.
You
It
know what I
gets
mean?
drama.
Right?
Mhm.
So does it make it better to say, Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons and guests, even though it's not Tommy? But to me, here's my opinion on that. If Tommy's included in this, then why doesn't Tommy get the same kind of billing Bruce Kulick gets? He was in the band longer than Bruce Kulick. No
Mhm.
disrespect to Bruce.
No,
That's not what I'm saying.
no,
He worked for the band. He was in the band for how many years?
20 plus years.
Okay, so why? So to me, that's weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tommy's not even mentioned on any of the copy.
Yeah. No, look, it was
And I do
definitely.
think that Tommy's going to be there. That's the thing. So this is what's strange to me.
Right.
Right?
So yeah, so let's go through that for a moment because I agree, it's strange. What do you think the likelihood is that Tommy Thayer is there?
I think it's very likely. But this is, again, it's weird that, what is he, holding out for money? And they before they made this announcement, they couldn't agree on. Tommy seems to be a very reasonable, good guy. So I don't think it's that.
Yeah.
So this is just, this end guest thing is intriguing, but very confusing in ways.
It is.
I mean, it could be a chance to, they could have said Kiss and special guests.
Mhm.
If the four guys were going to be there, if they do
Right.
want special guests, right? So
Yeah.
they could have put it that way.
Mhm.
But Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, and guests, it's just I know it's kind of interesting for sure to kind of guess what's going on.
And now I'm going to totally 100% speculate, and this is never anything that we'd never get into these kind of details and conversations I've had with Pop House, but clearly the brand was sold last year. I mean, that's public information. And who was the ones that helped facilitate that sale? And who's the ones that financially benefited from that sale? Paul and Gene. Could there, and I'm making stuff up, I don't know this, could there have been something in that sale contract that said Paul and Gene had to give Pop House a performance in the first 2 years of the sale? I don't know. I'm making something up right now, right? There could be. And therefore, all Pop House and the companies, and there's multiple companies that are involved in this, can say right now is that Paul and Gene will be there because contractually they have to be. Maybe they're still working, and I'm making stuff up now. I swear on my children, I swear on my life, I do not know this. I could be 100% wrong, but clearly Paul and Gene were the only owners of Kiss at the end, and they're the ones that sold it. So it's no surprise that they would be the two that are here. It is very shocking to me that Tommy and Eric are not there.
Well,
but we don't know what negotiations are going on behind the scenes.
To your point, I thought it was kind of confusing when Gene Simmons was out on his solo tour and he's picking a set list and he was doing certain songs and he was doing cover songs. Like why was that? Was that some sort of,
who knows?
Maybe he couldn't do a certain percentage of Kiss songs.
Who knows?
Maybe he could,
Right, exactly.
So,
it could be something like that. So there's a lot more to this that you, me, and everybody watching and listening to this will never know, right? So when I see Paul and Gene and special guests, I personally don't think it's a bait and switch opportunity. I think it's a lot of legalities that go on behind the scenes and contracts and the way things work that is the only way they were able to announce it at this point. And maybe to your point, Tommy Thayer is already signed and Eric Singer is not. For whatever reason, right? Maybe Eric Singer was on vacation for a month and couldn't sign a contract. We don't know. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. So therefore, they just said Paul and Gene as special guests. I don't read into it as, I know some people have, and I've seen a lot of comments online that people think it's a market ploy to try to get people to buy with the hopes that it's Ace and Peter. I guess in my mind, and we'll go through each of the members individually, I think in some cases there's a low likelihood that some of these members are there. So I don't see it, Paul and Gene as special guests, as a bait and switch for me, because quite frankly, I don't think that there's a high probability that Peter Criss is going to be there. So I'm not going in thinking that's one of the special guests. I'll be pleasantly surprised and very happy if he is, but I'm not buying a ticket to the event thinking I'm going to see Paul, Gene, Ace, and Peter. I'm just not, because I don't believe that that's realistic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm.
So let's just go through percentage-wise. I'm just kind of curious. I'll go through all the different members. You tell me percentage likelihood that they're going to be there. Let's start with Tommy, since you mentioned him before. Tommy Thayer, what's the percentage of likelihood of him being there?
100.
Wow, you're at 100. I'll go 99%. There's always, who knows, there's always something that could go wrong, but I would be stunned if Tommy Thayer is not there for the reasons that you were just saying. He does work with Kiss behind the scenes for decades, right? We know he's still doing work with Kiss now. I'd be stunned if he wasn't there, unless there's some family reason he
Mm-hmm.
can't be, but I'd be stunned. So I'm at 99, you're at 100. Eric Singer.
70%.
Ooh, that's lower than I thought you were going to say.
Just because, again, I'm just wondering what the hell's going on,
Yeah.
and I'm basing it based on the special guest thing. And Tommy, obviously, what you said, because he's so close and done so much,
Yeah.
I'd be stunned.
Yeah. So the only thing that makes me wonder if there's something going on with Eric is I posted on YouTube and places about the announcement, the official announcement of this event, and somebody had made a comment on my video and then deleted it. Now anybody can make a comment online. It doesn't mean that it's accurate, true. So I take all of it with a grain of salt. But the person said, a friend of mine knows Eric Singer, and Eric Singer had no idea about this event until it was made public. I have a very hard time believing that. Very hard time. I mean, Eric still talks to Bruce. Eric talks, I think Eric's on good rapport with everybody in the bands. I would be stunned if he didn't know about this before the announcement. So I tend to think that that comment online was not true. But it just, of course, it just begs questions because you and I both feel Tommy's basically 100%. Is Eric the holdout here for whatever the reasons? I'm going to say I put Eric at 85, 90% chance of being there. I would be very, very surprised after all these years if he's not there. But maybe there's something going on there. We don't know. Maybe he's just, look, he's in his 60s and drumming is not easy, right? That's the hardest instrument to play as you get older. He might be like, I'm done. I'm good. Who knows? There might not be anything personal, but I still think there'll be a
Also,
high probability of him being there.
also remember one thing, which my number could change just by the statement alone. Eric played in Paul Stanley's Soul Station, so obviously Paul was close
Good
to
point.
Eric, and Tommy didn't play in that, so it's
Yeah.
not like there's been a weird thing with Paul and Eric,
No.
or so yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah. I didn't
yeah,
believe the comment I read online, which was deleted after the guy posted it. I just, I
yeah,
think Eric will be there.
yeah.
So, all right, let's move to some of the others. Ace Frehley.
45%.
Ooh, less than 50-50. All right. I was going to go with like 60%. I think it's greater than 50-50. And my logic there is that for the last few years, Ace has been very vocal that he's willing to play with Kiss again. He's willing to do things with Kiss again, quote, for the right money. So I have to think whoever's doing the negotiations, I'm saying Pop House, but it might be the companies that are running the event itself. Whoever's doing the negotiations are going to pay Ace and others what the proper going rate is for a show like this. And I think Ace, quite frankly, may need the money and do it for that reason only. So I fall a little bit north of 50%. You're a little south of 50%.
Yeah, yeah.
Peter Criss.
5%.
Okay, wow, 5%. Yeah, I would have been at 5% if this was an event run by Paul and Gene. I go to like 20% chance, which is still very low, obviously. But I say that because will Peter feel differently if a corporation is reaching out to him to do an event and he has to negotiate with that corporation instead of with Paul and Gene?
I just don't think he seems motivated these days to do these type
I
of
agree.
things.
I agree, which is why I'm still a low percent.
Yeah.
Um,
But I mean, definitely from those two guys, we don't have to deal with Gene and Paul on this. It's not their decision. It comes from a different place. I think motivates them more,
right. But they'd still have to see each other. They would still have to do a Q&A together, perform together, whatever it is. They'd have to do something together. And Peter, quite frankly, might be like, I'm good. But I say this, I thought that about the Gene Simmons vault. I thought Peter would never show up. And he did.
Well, again, in hindsight, those guys, although money talks, everything else walks, as they say, they, it could be a bad taste in the mouth that they kind of weren't recognized, like a lot of Kiss fans were disappointed.
Yeah.
Paul Stanley recently said something like, "Oh, we could have done a video, or we could have." I don't know. He alluded to something that they could have done. I'm like, yeah, you could have done that. That would have been better.
Right. Yeah.
I think it might have been on. I don't know what interview it was. I just felt like whatever he said that he kind of like but that would have made a difference. I don't
Right.
remember the exact thing. Sorry,
Yeah.
but
No, that's okay. I think also the fact that they're not going to perform in makeup makes the Peter and Ace thing a little more likely, whatever that may mean,
oh yeah,
because you don't have the whole dynamic of, well, I'm not going to be on stage if this one's wearing my makeup, right? So, saying that,
yeah,
I put Peter at 20%, so I don't think he's going to be
yeah,
there, but it'll be interesting. All right, Vinnie Vincent.
0.
Agreed. Agreed. I put that as 0. I would be.
Watch, he's the only one.
Yeah, right.
Not even Gene and Paul show up.
Oh, God. Well, it does say Gene and Paul and special guests, so
Yeah, yeah.
let's
Well,
hope
I'm
they're
just saying,
there.
I'm.
But yeah, I would probably put Vinny at 0%. Although obviously Vinny did do the vault with Gene. I
Yeah,
would
but as you
be.
just told me before this podcast, that was like 8 years ago.
Yes, I know, right? Which is
Yeah,
crazy, which is
yeah.
8 years
So,
ago. But I also think, honestly, I think Gene would probably be open to it. I think Paul would put a squash on that instantly.
well, Gene is doing anything to kind of, not anything, but he's all into like selling the product. Let's
Yes,
face facts. He was motivated, I like think a lot with Vinny and
yeah,
Ace and Peter because it helps sell his
of
product,
course, of course.
So
Yeah, agreed. And obviously, I skipped over Bruce because it was officially announced that Bruce will be there performing. So obviously, he's 100%. He will be there. Actually, right now, the only Kiss members we know for sure that'll be there is Paul, Gene, and Bruce. Pretty
mm,
wild how that one works out, right? After all of these years, there are only 3 definites. Um, I would expect that we'll get very similar type performance or performances, hopefully, from Bruce as we saw on the cruise. Last weekend, Bruce did a private event with Eric Singer. I would love to see Bruce and Eric get up on stage and perform together. No disrespect to Brent Fentz, who's a great drummer, but last weekend, I don't know if you saw any of those videos. It was Bruce, Eric, Todd Kearns, Zach was there, and Brent was playing keyboards. And they friggin', from what I've been told, they played for 3 hours, right? And they were doing all sorts of Kiss songs. They were doing cover tunes that, like, they recorded like 4 or 5 years ago, Bryan Adams' Heaven. I saw a video where they did that. They were doing Night Rangers, Don't Tell Me You Love Me. They were just doing the Ted Nugent. I think they did Cat Scratch Fever, if I remember right. They were just doing all. It
one
was
of
a
my
fun.
favorites.
Yeah, I know Ted Nugent's one of your favorites, but it was a 3 hour show. Bruce will not perform for 3 hours, obviously, at this event, but I would love to see Bruce do.
But he's gonna dance for 3 hours.
No, I'd be very happy if Bruce danced for 3 hours. So that was one of the highlights.
Does anybody even know this reference when we do
No,
that?
I don't think here anybody has a clue what we're talking about. Do you want to share it? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't know if we first discovered it on the cruise, but like there would be parts where there's the drum, they're playing the song and then they would just
I
be
think they were
playing
playing
the
like
drums,
Paralyzed.
right?
And there's like the
And
breakdown in the
the
middle.
breakdown and maybe Todd is singing or talking to the crowd, and Bruce would just be doing like this little
Yeah.
this little dance.
He's very
shimmy,
excited and he's doing a
Yeah,
dance shimmy up on
yeah.
the side. Yeah.
We love it, Bruce. So if you're watching this, we're not making fun of you. We
Not
actually
at all.
love that you do that.
Yeah. To me, it's just exciting to see him be so excited and into it.
Yeah, and happy to be on the stage and doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for me, I'm hoping that the Bruce show, I would love it to be with all of those guys. I'm hoping it could be. Obviously, we don't know yet who's going to be in Bruce's bands, but if Eric was playing drums and it was half the Revenge lineup and you had Todd, Zach, and Brent playing keyboards, that might be the highlight of the weekend, those Bruce shows then. So are there any other bands that you could think of that you like? Because I'm sure they'll have some support bands with them on this. You're like, hey, I'd love to see this support band with them this weekend. Now, obviously, you don't want to say, I don't know, Guns N' Roses. It's not going to be that caliber of a band. It's going to be, a lower level caliber than that. So any bands you could think of?
I didn't think you were going to ask me this, so that's why I'm like,
well, let me say this. I would hope any bands that are there, that there is some type of Kiss tie-in to it, right? And by that, I mean, they could have just opened for a Kiss tour or something like that, right? It would be cool if Black and Blue were there and Tommy did some songs with Black and Blue. To me, I enjoyed on the Kiss cruises when those bands that supported them had a Kiss tie. I mean, no disrespect to King's X at all, who are very talented, and the Darkness, the two of those bands just in the cruise always felt out of place to me. As good as they are, a Kiss cruise or in this, a Kiss event should have a Kiss tie-in to me. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. But I mean, look, I don't know why the first band came to my mind was Dokken because I don't think they have anything to do with Kiss,
Nope.
but rocking with Dokken. I don't know,
Yes.
I would love to see an old school band like that. Just,
Hmm.
plus I mean, listen, we know that Lynch and Don Dokken haven't gotten along, and
Yes.
I think they did a couple of Japan shows because they got, but I always like bands, who kind of finally get it together, like the original Skid Row, with Sebastian Bach, or Rat, with all the guys being together for once, just bury the damn hatchet. I'm saying that more for, I mean, this is never going to happen,
Hmm.
but you're just asking me. My wish list doesn't have a Kiss tie, but bands that we used to love, that you like to just see the original guys all playing together. So
Yeah.
I'm selfishly kind of saying that,
Yeah.
those type of
And
things.
so, and as you're saying this, I'm like, yeah, if Rat, which right now it's not really Rat, but it's Stephen Pearcy and Warren DeMartini are playing together. If the two of them with their band came to this event, there's no Kiss tie there that I could think of, but that's pretty damn cool to me. I'd be happy with that. So maybe I take
Mm-hmm.
back what I just said. So you just
Yeah,
sold me on somebody like
or
that.
Wasp, or
Well,
whoever.
Wasp did open for Kiss.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But
Yeah,
I'm talking about, I'm going back old school.
yeah.
I would
And
love to.
Wasp, that is a power choice there. And
Yeah,
I've never heard anybody bring them up.
yeah.
That's a powerful choice there.
Hmm. That's
I
because
have
I
to.
got good sleep.
I'll put that in the suggestion box. That
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
exist.
yeah,
I'll put
exactly.
that in the suggestion box that doesn't exist. Wasp is a good one. I
Yeah.
like that. That might be my favorite one that was suggested just now. So
Okay.
yeah. Now, to me, when we talk about the Paul and Gene and special guests, how do you feel if this performance, if Blackie Lawless is there with Wasp and he comes up on stage and he's joining Kiss for a cover of a Led Zeppelin song, or if Night Range is there and Brad Gillis is joining them on stage for a cover of a Who song? I don't know. I'm making stuff up right now. Does that excite you as part of the performance, or do you think, not
No,
really?
of course. I think any guys who, or girls, I don't want to be,
Mhm.
who jump up with the boys to perform. You hear a version of, I'm just saying, Strutter, with another guitar player who never played in Kiss, playing really good guitar. Oh my God, look at Joe Perry's playing really good guitar. Not that I have an inkling that Joe Perry's going to be there, but that'd be
The
damn freaking cool, right? If Joe Perry,
Joe
takes,
Perry project, that would be exciting to me. Yes.
right. So,
And Brad Whitford was on one of the Kiss cruises. So
yeah, yeah. So that kind of be fun,
yeah.
to see these guys,
So you'd want those guys to jump up on stage and still play Kiss songs, or would you be okay if they were cover tunes?
with Gene and Paul.
Yeah.
I think just a performance by them, but
Mhm.
no matter what they're doing, you
Yeah.
know.
Yep. I tend to agree. I'm actually, dare I say, even hoping that stuff like that happens, just because I've said this before on the show. I was good with the Final Kiss show, and I don't feel like I need more quote unquote Kiss concerts. So if this performance is something unique and it includes people jumping up on stage from other bands and kind of almost like an open jam type of thing, that'll be really cool. And I'll never feel like, gee, this is the new quote unquote Final Kiss show. It won't at all feel like a Kiss show to me. And
Mm.
I'm very open to something like that. And I'm even open to if Tommy and Erica are playing with them and just doing things a little left of center.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm sure they'll do Rock and Roll All Night and they'll probably do Detroit Rock City. And I'm hoping they do a few deep cuts. But I also don't mind if they kind of throw a big curveball at us and do some of these other fun things like we're talking about.
yeah. I listen. I think. Well, maybe I said it on the thing that you didn't record.
That's
Um,
right. Thanks.
I'm hoping that it's not going to be the usual,
Right.
set list that we got on the end of the road tour. Like, if you're going to do these things, like a special performance, and I think also it's a little bit better because then people could at least say, well, at least they played some different songs. They didn't do exactly what they did
Yep.
on the tour.
Yep. Agreed. Agreed. Now, one of the things that I guess I'll say surprises me, but maybe not. Like we said at the time of recording this, the VIP sale has already happened and the Kasami sale has already happened. And I believe last night I was counting the dots, like how many seats are open. And I only saw 140 seats remaining on the cheaper package, right? Which is just over $1,000 a person with taxes and everything. And then there looked to be about 600 or so. There was too many. I wasn't going to start counting all of those, but about 600 or so of the better seats still open. The top two packages sold out in a matter of a couple of hours at most. It might have even been quicker than that. Does that surprise you? how well and how quick this sold in a pre-sale like that?
Well, going back to the thing that wasn't recorded again.
But remember, the people who are watching this are seeing and hearing it for the first time since that recording does not
No,
exist.
no. What I was going to say is when
Uh,
we did go through all the packages before they went on
before it actually
sale,
went on sale.
and I was like, wow, $5,000 was the top one. You're getting this, you're getting this and that, but it's kind of expensive. And then all of a sudden they were all sold out. So
Right.
again, I didn't say it wasn't going to sell at that time. I just was
Yeah.
like, I wonder. Does it surprise me? Listen, Kiss fans are, they have an appetite for Kiss, and I think they realize that time is now.
Yeah.
They enjoy these experiences. Do I think you're getting good value for your money? I think where you went in is the sweet spot. Personally, those other extras are nice, but they don't drive me to spend another $3 or $4 or whatever it is.
Right.
I think from the second tier package, that's just me.
Right.
But a lot of people listen, I want everything,
And clearly enough people wanted it that it sold out
Right.
within an hour or two.
Right, exactly. I want my salad, my steak, my potatoes, my corn. Yes, I want my rice pudding. I want my cappuccino. And yeah, I want another dessert after that. They want everything on the menu. It's like
And there's
when
nothing wrong with that.
you and I, we love to go to the was it the Brazilian steakhouse?
Yes.
And they go around. Just like, yeah. I remember the first time we went there, like, yes, 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 yes. 10 minutes later, we're like, I can't breathe.
Do you remember you were like, oh, we should go up to the salad bar, and I was like, no salads, like, and then like
let's warm up with the salad bar.
Every meat that came, it was like, even if I don't eat them, like, yeah, put it on the plate. I'm eating that.
Yeah.
I'm eating that. And then like after 15 minutes, I wanted to puke because I ate so much.
But then we did go a second time, right? Then we're
learned to pace ourselves.
Yeah,
exactly.
We had with the card, whatever. We made them wait.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Speaking of which, I got to go to that restaurant again. There's one near my house. I got to go.
Yeah. Thanks for the invite.
No problem.
I'll remember that next time when I say, "Hey, where are we going to go to eat?"
You don't have to twist my arm. Next time you come to my house, yes, I will most gladly go there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, I do. I mean, I love that Kiss fans have the option. Let me just say that it's not always for me, but I love that Kiss gives it to you, or Pop House in the sense. Or I know that it's not just Pop House too. I think that's the other thing. That was on the recording that didn't record. Notice I'm just.
I love how you have to make sure you keep bringing that up. Thanks.
There was actually 3 companies involved.
Yes.
Right. There's Pop House. There was
Vibo or something like
that.
Yeah.
Another one.
I'm bad with these names.
Right. And I think one of them, you knew they do like the event planning or whatever they do.
One of them is exclusively, this is what they do. They do these kind of events. So, and I'm glad you bring that up, because I've seen people online comment, I should be able to buy a ticket to the show, but not have to get my hotel and all of that. That is not what this event is all about. This is being run by a company who does these types of events, and you're buying into a whole package. So I actually love that it's sold that way. I love that they're blocking out the hotel basically from anybody in the public. So this hotel is going to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all Kiss fans, nothing else. And I love that. I think that makes the event much more exciting. You had said to me, am I excited about this? And I said to you, well, part of the excitement is seeing a bunch of friends that have accumulated over the years from all around the world, right? That come together at these kind of things. I love that.
Well, what I do think, and I'll say this, and I won't say we did this before, but yes, we did record this, and I did mention that. I just said
I won't say it, but I'm going to say it.
I don't know if you're getting more value than what you got on a cruise, however, because the cruise, you did get food. And I'm not saying Vegas, it's a beautiful hotel, but you got to go on the ship, and then they dock, and it's usually 2 or 3 places. So I think from value point, I think the cruise is still a better value. However, I do still think that they're making it a really, they got a lot of stuff there, a lot of features there that they're going to keep Kiss fans very happy.
Agreed.
So,
and when we were talking about the price points, and I tend to agree that the cruise may have been a better value, but I also said this to you, that overall cruises are a better value for the vacation dollar than going to a hotel and going to a city anywhere in the world, right? That's just the way cruises are priced, just in general. So
Mm-hmm.
to compare this event to a cruise, a Kiss cruise, almost feels unfair, because that would be like saying, gee, I shouldn't go to Los Angeles, or I shouldn't go to Vegas on vacation just in general, because I could do a cruise and that's cheaper and that's a better value, right? So there are different types of vacations, and that's just, those price points are different outside of the Kiss world also,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think, to me, one of the pros of something like this is, and I never minded this, but some people, it was a turnoff. When you're on a cruise, you're stuck on that ship, right? That's it. You're on that ship.
Well, that's why I'm personally not a big fan of cruises.
Right.
You know, I know what they do get off, but I always says, like, you get off and then, like, all right, you got to be back on the ship at 5 o'clock. You know,
right. This, you can kind of come and go as you want. Right? If
Yeah.
you don't want to stay for the afternoon on the premises, you walk out the hotel door and you go to the you go to the strip in Los Angeles and Las Vegas. You go to the Grand Canyon if you want. You do what you want to do, right? You
see
have
the
that
Brady's is still there.
That's right. You can see if the Brady's are still there. Exactly. So
Bobby, Cindy, sorry.
you see people who said Vinnie seemed a little subdued last time. You unleashed the monster this time.
Exactly. Although I still don't like that album.
That's good. That's good. But yes, you're on your game.
Yeah, yeah.
But so
Queen,
to
1980.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Oh man, we're going off the rails here. So to me, the pool is heated in this place, right? I've seen it. It's a beautiful hotel. I personally don't plan on leaving the hotel, but you have the flexibility if you want to. And I think that's something that's kind of nice. And while there is no buffet,
oh, God. Did anybody ever see, by the way, if people have never seen Vegas Vacation, you got to see that movie. I mean, it's themed, like, here, I'm bringing up something. You got to see Vegas Vacation. It's one of the, I guess, 4 vacation movies.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm trying to think if I saw that.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Is it? Okay.
But there's a classic scene with Cousin Eddie and Clark at the buffet. It's, but the whole movie to me is a classic. So people should go see it.
Yes, well, look, the vacation movies are classic stuff, but I don't recall seeing the Vegas one, but maybe I did decades ago. I don't know. I don't know. But my point was, I think you'll have better food choices and better food selections than just a buffet on the cruise. As much as I was guilty of being in that buffet multiple times a day, so
yeah. But when you're not paying for it, it's like this is good.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
More Jello.
I will miss the ice cream machine. I did like that, but okay, whatever.
I love that noise, the ice cream machine.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yes. So now I would be remiss if I didn't, at least as we get close to wrapping up here, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. So I've booked my package. I will be there. And I know I've brought it up to you a few times. Friend Billy has brought it up to you a few times.
Yeah, almost every day.
What will it take to get Mr. Larusa to join the party?
I mean, I'm certainly considering it. I'll say that. I'm certainly considering it. I do think, I think now it's becoming more because Billy's going to be there. Kirk, who's in the band, he's like, I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. You're going to be there, obviously. With your wife and
my son, right?
So yeah, I think never been to Vegas, I love Wayne Newton, so maybe if he's playing there, I could catch a show. Just kidding, it wasn't about Wayne Newton, but
look, you never know with you, but
yeah.
And so you see,
he might still be playing there, by the way.
He may be, I don't know.
Yeah.
You're playing right into my point, though, right?
Or his brother Fig.
Oh man, you see, people, this is what I put up. This is 45 years of our friendship. This is what it's been like.
45. I think you
is it 50 now?
50, yeah.
Is it 50?
Maybe we got to celebrate our 50 years of friendship.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a 50-year friendship.
We got to figure that out. So I met you, I think, first grade, right? So no, that'd be 6 years old. 6.
So next year is the 50th anniversary.
September of 2026.
Oh, we have to have a big shindig.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. But you're hitting on a point, going back to the Vegas thing, you're hitting
Yeah.
on a point here to me is like, so especially with some of the vagueness of the event right now, it didn't 100% entice you. It was interesting, but it wasn't like, hey, I'm going to drop my money on this.
Yeah.
But what did I say to you? Go into some of these things. It's as much the Kiss stuff, which is great, but it's also seeing your friends and hanging out with different
Yeah.
people. And you're saying that that's the part that is starting to potentially sway you. I don't want
Well,
to say sway you, but potentially.
and selfishly, I always enjoy when, you know, you would go do something,
Mhm.
right? One of these events. Is the chemist here with you? You know what I
Right.
mean? So
And I get that a
you
lot.
know,
I get that a
yeah.
lot at different Kiss related events.
We've all know it's been well documented that I've made, I only think there's one regret I had, and that was the Peter Chris, cutting room show
Uh-huh.
that I said, I'm good, whatever. And I was like, I should have gone to that, especially what the price was, what they were offering. It was just stupid not to go. So, yeah. Although we did see him, right? Again at the cutting
Yes.
room, right?
At the cutting room, he
With
played 3 or 4 songs. I forget what it was with Sister Doll.
Redemption.
With Sister Doll.
Yeah, which in some ways that was, because let's face facts, that really wasn't his band per se that he played
Right.
with the other thing. I mean, I know it was less songs, but that was like kind of like a redemption,
It was a good consolation prize. How about
Yes,
that?
yes.
It definitely the vibe wasn't the same, but it was a good
I
consolation
remember you
prize.
telling me what it
Yeah.
was like in the room and stuff like that.
Yeah. That was, I still put that, sorry, in one of my top 10 concerts ever.
I know, and that's I get it. I get
Hopefully
it.
for you, you don't skip on Vegas and I say to you, now that's one of my new top 10 concerts ever.
Yeah.
If you do decide to go, will you try to make it a little bit of an extended vacation, either before or after?
It all depends on what the schedule allows,
Mhm.
gigs. I mean, I don't even know. What are the dates? I might already have. Well, it's a little far
Was
out in the year,
November, I think, was what, 14,
but it's
15,
but
16?
it's enough for me that I could
You
talk
can
to
move
a
it, right?
venue if the garden could move me.
See if the guy can
Um,
move it.
what is it?
I think it's the 14th, 15th, 16th. It's the Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, so I do have on a 15th gig, but that's
Do you really?
yeah,
That's so
yeah,
funny.
yeah. But that's something as a local place that
Gotcha.
that I'm a good relationship. And if I was going to book that now, I would just say, can we move that date?
Right.
It wouldn't be a
Right.
problem.
Okay. Well, Billy, if you're watching, keep working on him. I will as
Well,
well.
it's so funny because you said that, because I was just looking on that and I was like, what weekend? Because the weekend before that, it's like I see Kiss Unmasked at the warehouse, at the Waree house. Yeah. So I was like,
Okay.
wow, are we canceling that? And I'm like, oh, okay, it's the week after. So Billy was probably like,
Billy's on his A game there.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
got things
As
under
he usually
control.
is.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Well, I'll say for me, I hope that you come around and you say, yeah, I'm going to
When I
book it.
come around.
Remember, there's only, if you want to go with the cheaper package, there's only 140 seats left.
Yeah. I think a decision will be made in the next couple of days.
Oh,
And
I
hopefully
like
it's
that.
still available. Yes.
I like, yeah, I think the
Yeah.
public on sale is Monday, if I'm not mistaken.
And I think I heard, at least as of last weekend, prices could change. It was about a buck 80, at least from New York, to go to
Oh, really?
Vegas.
Okay, I haven't even
Yeah,
looked at the
Vegas.
flights.
Vegas. Yeah.
Vegas?
Yeah, Vegas.
Well,
Not
well,
round trip.
remember when your leg was itchy?
Yes.
You
Yeah,
have
my
this thing
leg. Yeah.
today with legs for some
Yeah.
reason. As
Yeah.
you
That's
scratched
it.
your neck, saying, my leg is itchy.
Yeah. Right
What?
before the podcast, I go, my leg is itchy. People, I am not drunk
Oh, no, he's not. He's just
or am I on
thoroughly
any
throwed. Just thoroughly throwed.
substances. Yes.
Oh, man. Well, good. Then I will harass you a little bit more over the weekend and to try to hopefully convince you. People want to see the chemist.
Convince you. Convince.
Convince.
Chemist.
Yes.
Yes.
People want to see the chemist.
I can appreciate that.
Maybe you could set up a little outside the hotel, little booth, like take pictures and sign autographs.
I'll have what are the chemistry set? What do they have? Those vials? What do they have?
That's right.
Those,
Like test tubes or whatever.
smoke coming at them. I'll be sitting there.
Oh man. What if they came knocking on your door, Vin? We want your band to play.
Yeah, right.
Obviously, that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
no disrespect to you.
Yeah, I think we know the answer to that one.
Yeah, of course. But all right. Well, I'm going to leave this unless, do you have anything else to say about?
No.
Okay. I think that's pretty much it. I will just say, I know we'll share more information maybe on the next episode we do, but I think you're going to finally have a Kiss product for us to share, right?
Oh yeah. Yes. So am I talking about that right
You
now?
you could mention it a little bit if you feel
No wonder why you were
comfortable.
harassing me earlier today.
Well, I harass you frequently about it.
3 years of it, and all
Exactly.
justified. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We have been talking about this for, well, we started this in 2021, Al and I, and we're finally going to be putting this out. And it looks like, if everything goes well, next week we're going to drop our first kissing single, not ours,
Mhm.
obviously. We're going to probably do 2 weeks of that, um, one song each week. And then after that, there's going to be two releases of people. I mean, I don't know if they know, if I even said, I think we've recorded 24 songs total. Um, would you like to get a kind of a semblance of like what kind of songs we actually did record? Would
If
that,
you'd like to share, yes.
am I going to Red Hot Chili Pepper this? Going to give it away, or should I
I say you give them a little taste. Don't give them all
give me a little
24. Give them a
taste?
little taste.
No, 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 no. I don't want to, but yes, it's. I'm very, very excited. Al and I are very, very excited about it. So I'm actually going to bring up the song list right now, and so here we go. So
And
we're
you
gonna
said it's two blooms, right?
2 volumes. Yep, and I'm looking here. It was release 1 and 2. Um, and let me load up the spreadsheet here.
And they'll
Okay,
be
so
released at separate times.
yes, and each release is going to have 13 songs. Okay, so I said 24. So my math is a little. Wait, no, it's more. It's 26.
26. Yeah.
Right.
See, people, it's a good thing
Um,
he's not an accountant.
yeah, good thing you are and I'm not. Well, you're not really an accountant.
No, I
Um,
just play one on TV.
yes, we're going to be doing anything from your typical Kiss songs like "Shout Out Loud" and Detroit Rock City to doing songs like "Save Your Love" and "Mr. Speed," and songs like let's see, "Room Service," "Take Me." To give a couple little hints. So we have a nice mix of some of the classics. Now I'm getting excited just looking at the song list. And so, yeah, so it's going to be 2 volumes, 13 songs. And I think people are going to really be into it. The artwork and the name of the band, I guess I should hold out on that,
Mhm.
that, that name. I think it's going to be a Kiss Tie, what we actually call the project.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really, really fun. And, hopefully, if you will allow, we could have the boys who were involved, because it wasn't just Al and I. We did bring in some of the troupe,
Yeah.
like as Kirk as the guitar player in Kiss Unmasked, and a couple other people, our good friend Mike Wren and some other people.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is definitely happening. Finally, Al and I sat down. We did the mixes, but it's a really, really tough thing for me because I don't know what's harder, releasing my own music, which is always tough for me to do because is it done? Is it done? Is it
Mhm.
done? People don't know the songs, or a Kiss song. Is it perfect? Is it perfect? Because Kiss fans are going to be like, I feel like almost like
Yes.
this is more pressure because I know it's a song that people know. When you do original music, people are like, oh, that's great. He's put out music. Yeah, okay, whatever. And now I think like this might actually get a couple of listens, maybe 2 or 3,
Right.
So it's like, I feel like there's a bit more pressure on it, but I'm extremely proud of it. I think people are really going to love it. And I will say this, and this is not to put down anybody else's product, but we really did try to make it as close to the original. I mean, I sat down and listen to the original version. I put my mix on. I would listen to the sounds, and we could talk more about this in the future. But I
Yeah,
really, really tried to make this an authentic
you
Kiss
did. And the
related,
biggest compliment I
album.
can say is you had given me copies of early versions of these recordings going back a few years ago. And I
Mm-hmm.
played one of the songs for somebody that we both know.
My resume song.
Yes. And the first 20 seconds of the song was so precise that then you started singing, and the person looked at me, it's like, after like the first verse, like, this is not the original, is it? I'm like, no, this is my buddy Vincent. It's like, this sounds like perfect. And this is somebody
Mm.
who would have been critical and would have told me, he
Mm.
would have been honest with me. And he was like, that is damn good.
Mm.
So that's one person that's, I'll say, outside of our circle, but somebody that I know. And that was their impression. So I'm kind of excited to see what the fan reaction will be to this. Like you said, people always have something to say, and if anybody puts out something and expects to get 100% positive feedback, you're crazy. It doesn't matter. Nobody gets that. But I think overall people would be very impressed with this, and I'm excited. And the first single you said is going to drop. Is it next week?
It's next week, yes.
So just in case, depending on when this gets released, you're talking the week of what, April 6th or 7th?
Maybe it'll be the 8th,
Which is what
Tuesday
day?
the 8th.
Tuesday the 8th.
Tuesday
Right.
the 8th,
Right.
or the Wednesday the 9th. I'm not sure what
So
the
it could
statistics
be,
these days.
depending on when I release this podcast, it could be in a matter of days. So don't sleep, people, and say, oh, Mike said, Vince said it was a week. It could be a matter of days.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I'm excited for that. And maybe we'll have to do an entire episode just talking about recording these songs.
There's so much for me to talk about, and
because I want to make sure people realize this. You play drums, guitar, bass, sing lead, sing background vocals, and then your friend Al sings lead on some of the songs also. But the musical side of it, correct me if I'm wrong, except for some of the guitar solos that you had guests come in on.
I also did piano parts because we did
piano parts, and I think you did some of the solos yourself also, right?
I did, yes.
But you wanted to bring in some friends and some people we know.
Yes.
But 90+% of the music is all you. And it might be even greater than 90%, right? But I'll just say 90+% is all you. So I'm excited to see people react to this.
Glory hog.
no, I'm the one. You didn't say all of that. I did.
No, I'm just.
I'm the one that said all of that, and I've been pushing you for a couple of years to get this to finally put it out. So I probably am almost equally as excited as you to finally get this out there.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
Because there's no greater love that I have other than from friends, family, my girlfriend. Let me say that.
I was gonna say, don't leave her out, please.
Yes. Than I have for music, and we wouldn't be doing what we do, if we didn't love this band, and music, right?
Very true.
So I remember very early on, when I first was jamming in the basement with you, I'd be like, oh, I just learned. I didn't even learn it. I just know Detroit Rock City. And I was just trying to figure out songs. Oh, I just learned the bass line. As crude as I knew how to play. I was attacking those songs at, 16, 17 years old, before YouTube people, oh, how would Paul say it on the Asylum tour with his little
Southern accent? Yeah. I don't know. I can't do a Southern accent. So
I can't either, but yeah, so it was a lot of fun. And I know we've said it before, but maybe this is the first time that people are listening to your show, because I did this is how I got into Kiss Unmasked, because I just kind of accidentally said, let me record Calling Dr. Love. I never sang like Gene Simmons. I never tried, other than doing Rock and Roll Night because every band covers it. Right. But I never tried to put on this voice. And then I was like, that's pretty good considering,
And you can be your own worst critic sometimes. So for you to say it's pretty good.
Yeah, no.
It's not bad.
Yeah. And so, but then it was, also fun because, Al basically attacked pretty much 98% Paul songs. I think he did one Peter song, but I did some Paul songs. I did the A song, so I didn't just do the Gene Simmons, which actually, that's also fun too, trying to do that range.
Yep. But well, perhaps when volume 1 drops, we'll do a podcast about it, and you can talk about what it takes to record those 13 songs, the drum parts, the guitar parts, the bass parts. Where was there a challenge? Where was there a drum part that maybe was, more intricate than people realize, So I think that'll be a fun conversation, but we will save that coming up in about a week or two. But now just know that the first single will drop. I'm saying next week because from when we're recording.
It's definitely going to drop next week. This is not contingent on, it going up to, it's going to, so to be clear, it will drop on, I believe, definitely Facebook and like Instagram and that kind of thing, social media, before it goes up. It will be all over, your streaming services. Perfect. But I think my intention is at first to just put it out there, because I can't really do that, with Spotify, where I want to do some artwork things, and there's some other ideas that I want to do. So, and then, working, at the same time with getting everything released, the first volume on all the streaming platforms.
And I will say this, and then we'll wrap. I love what you've done with the first single and the artwork that you're doing there. I love what you've done with the artwork just overall, but I love the Kiss tie-in that you've done with the artwork for the first single, which I'll
Yeah.
say no more. I don't want to give anything away, but it's a fun
Yes.
Kiss tie-in that I think fans will really appreciate, a little tip of the hat. So
Yeah.
we'll leave it there for now.
Yes, that's a good idea.
All right. That's everything that we have for this episode. I'm curious to hear what you guys think of the Vegas event. Obviously, like I said, it's sold probably 60-70%, it look like, just counting the open seats that are left. Is it something that interests you? What do you think the likelihood are of the different special guests that we were talking about? Does it bother you that it's being billed as Paul and Gene special
Mm.
guests? Do you think Tommy and Eric are going to be there? What do you think's going on there? We had a lot to unbox on this episode. I think we covered it, but we'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on everything we discussed. As always, all opinions are welcomed. There's no right or wrong answers here. I just ask, of course, everybody to be respectful in their opinions, but otherwise, we look forward to reading and seeing what you guys have to say. And as always, thank you guys for watching. And I will leave you guys with.
Oh yeah!
Alrighty, there you have it. Our thoughts and our opinions on the upcoming Kiss Storms Vegas event. We look forward to reading and seeing your thoughts and your comments, and as always, all opinions are welcome. Also, certainly you're going to want to keep an eye out for Vincent's newest release of his Kiss cover CD coming up in the month of April. I think you guys are going to really enjoy that, so you definitely want to check it out. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.